I really like this part of the peak. I think it's got quite a different feel to the more eastern edges of the peak, such as Stanage and Burbage. Some of the crags, such as Rowtor Rocks and Robin Hood Stride, are quite different to your sort of typical Gritstone edges. Rather than being long and straight, they're kind of found on these hilltops, and it's almost like a sort of circuit of rocks. So I'm just at a little crag called Clifftop Boulders today. It's not very big, there's not that much here, but there's a couple of really good climbs. There's this thing behind me called a golden egg, which is a problem of John's, which comes sort of direct compressing through this sort of triangular wedge, if you will. And then there's a version that Ned did the first ascent of called Furry Egg, which kind of bisects this. You sort of do the first few moves and then you come off right, rocking around on these sort of slopers. I've done Golden Egg before, but I've never done Furry Egg. I've tried it and thought it was really hard. But I came here earlier in the week and had about maybe 15 minutes on it before I got rained off. But I think I sort of worked out all of the moves, so I'm hoping that today I'll be able to get it done relatively quickly. On my previous session to warm up, I thought I'd repeat a first ascent that I put up maybe a little over a year ago now. It tackles the obvious roof feature just opposite Golden Egg, using an interesting sequence of sort of knee bars and toe hooks. Unfortunately, it is quite height dependent, so realistically, if you're not at least 6 foot, you're probably going to have a very hard time with this. Because it's so height dependent, it's hard to grade something like this. I think if you're tall enough to climb it with this sequence, it's in the regions of 7B+, which is what I ended up giving it. If you're much shorter than that, it'll definitely be a lot harder, or it might even be impossible. It's not that tall, but because you're leaning out almost full stretch horizontally, it feels very committing. I felt good that time. After a few goes where I got pretty close, I ended up having to admit defeat and move on. I got to the point where I wasn't able to get the toe hooks to stick anymore, so there wasn't really much point trying after that. The following day I went to Crackcliff and Robin Hood Stride with the intention of trying to do a few of Ned's new boulders that he's added over the last year or so. The low start to Pincher's Wall was definitely the best problem of the day. You're climbing on these really cool scoops and pinches. While not being a very physical boulder problem, the difficulty lies more within the sort of subtlety and positioning within the climbing. Even though I've been to Robinhood Stride and Crack Cliff countless times over the years, I was able to have a full session climbing on totally new climbs for me, which is quite rare really, but it just goes to show that there's so much more still to be done.